This video is brought to you by Blessed Be God Boutique, maker of Catholic fashionable apparel, handmade accessories, and more.
Today we have a episode of We Were Warned, featuring the warnings and visions of a mystic that most Catholics today don't seem to know about. Those who are interested in Catholic prophecy tend to focus on Marie Julie Jahenny, tend to focus on the apparitions of Our Lady, but Elizabeth Canori Mora, the subject of our video today, is not that well known. She was an Italian wife and mother who displayed great heroic virtue, incredible, unbelievable heroic virtue, especially from the eyes of the 21st century, because her husband abandoned her and her family. Well, her and his family, his own children, and subjected them to destitution. Elizabeth Canori Mora, instead of taking the options given by the secular state to separate herself from him, instead remained steadfast, loyal in the strangest way possible to our modern sensibilities, and prayed for his conversion. In fact, despite the evils he showered upon her, she loved him more and more, to the point where she was dedicated to his conversion and salvation, which I believe he reunited with her before it was too late for his soul. So pray, hope for the repose of his soul, because he may need it. However, Blessed Elizabeth Canori Mora's visions of the Chastisement. You will notice that this seems to line up pretty well, things said here, with other calamities and divine chastisements given by God. So today, buckle up. This is an intense one. Elizabeth Canori Mora and the vision of essentially the apocalypse. The vision of Blessed Elizabeth Canori Mora. On the feast of St. Peter, 29th of June, 1820, while I was praying for the wants of the Church and the conversion of sinners, amongst whom I am the first, I was ravished in spirit and drawn very near to God. Through an infinite light I was so intimately united to him that I lost all sentiments of myself. The sweet impressions of the love of God replenished me with an inexpressible joy and satisfaction. My soul, however, remained calm in these tokens of divine kindness. Then it seemed to me to behold the heavens opening, and St. Peter, Prince of the Apostles, coming down, surrounded with great glory and by a numerous escort of heavenly spirits, singing canticles. St. Peter was dressed in his pontifical robes, and held in his right hand the pastoral staff, with which he used to draw upon the earth an immense cross. At the same time, the angels sang the words of the psalmist, Constituis eas principes super omnem terram. You will constitute them princes over the whole earth. After this, the holy apostle touched with his staff the four extremities of the cross, from which instantly sprung four beautiful trees loaded with blossoms and fruits. These mysterious trees had the form of a cross, and were surrounded by a splendid light. Then I comprehended in the depth of my soul that St. Peter had produced these four symbolic trees to the end that they may serve as a place of refuge to the little flocks of the faithful friends of Jesus Christ, and in order to preserve them from the fearful punishment which shall convulse the whole earth. All good Christians shall then be protected under these trees, together with all those religious persons who shall have faithfully preserved in their hearts the spirit of their order. I say the same thing in relation to the secular clergy, to all other persons of every class who shall have kept in their heart the Catholic faith. They shall all be protected. But woe to those religious who do not observe their rule. Thrice unhappy they, for they shall all be struck by their terrible punishment. I say the same to all secular clergy, and to all classes of people in the world who give themselves to a life of pleasure, and who follow the false maxims of modern ideas, which are opposed to the holy precepts of the gospel. These wretched people, who through their scandalous conduct deny the faith of Jesus Christ, shall perish under the weight of the indignant arm of God's justice. Not one of them shall be able to escape the punishment. I beheld those good Christians who had sought a refuge under those mysterious trees, in the form of a beautiful lamb, confided to the care and vigilance of St. Peter, their good shepherd, testifying to him the most humble and most respectful obedience. As soon as St. Peter, the Prince of the Apostles, had gathered the flock of Jesus in a place of safety, he reascended into heaven, accompanied by legions of angels. Scarcely had they disappeared, when the sky was covered with clouds so dense and dismal it was impossible to look at them without dismay. On a sudden there burst out such a terrible and violent wind that its noise seemed like the roar of furious lions. The sound of the dreadful hurricane was heard over the whole earth. Fear struck not only men, but the very beasts. As an aside, this storm coincides with the first warning, as known by other mystics. All men shall rise one against the other, and they shall end one another without pity. During this sanguinary conflict, the avenging arm of God will strike the wicked, and in his mighty power he will punish their pride and presumption. God will employ the powers of hell for the eradication of those dedicated to impiety and to evil, and who desire to tear down the church and destroy it to its foundation. These presumptuous men in their mad impiety believe that they can overthrow God from his throne, but the Lord will despise their artifices, and through an effect of his almighty hand he will punish these impious blasphemers by giving permission to the infernal spirits to come from hell. Innumerable legions of demons shall overrun the earth, and shall execute the orders of divine justice by causing terrible calamities and disasters. They shall attack everything. They shall injure individuals and entire families. They shall devastate property and alimentary productions, cities and villages. Nothing on earth shall be spared. God will allow the demons to strike with death those impious men, because they gave themselves up to the infernal powers, and had formed themselves the compact against the Catholic Church. Being desirous of more fully penetrating my spirit with the deeper sentiment of his divine justice, God showed to me the awful abyss. I saw in the bowels of the earth at day a dark and frightful cavern, whence an infinite number of demons were issuing forth, who under the form of men and beasts came to ravage the world, leaving everywhere ruins and blood. Happy will be all true and good Catholics. They shall experience the powerful protection of the holy apostles, St. Peter and St. Paul, who will watch over them lest they may be injured either in their persons or their property. Those evil spirits shall plunder every place where God has been outraged, despised, and blasphemed. The edifices they profaned will be pulled down and destroyed, and nothing but ruins shall remain of them. After this frightful punishment I saw the heavens open, and St. Peter coming down again upon earth. He was vested in his pontifical robes, and surrounded by a great number of angels, who were chanting hymns in his honor, and they proclaimed him as sovereign of the earth. I saw also St. Paul descending upon the earth. By God's command he traversed the earth and unchained the demons, whom he brought before St. Peter, who commanded them to return unto hell whence they came. Then a great light appeared upon the earth, which was the sign of the reconciliation of God with man. The angels conducted before the throne of the Prince of the Apostles the small flock that had remained faithful to Jesus Christ. These good and zealous Christians testified to him the most profound respect, praising God and thanking the apostles for having delivered them from the common destruction, and for having protected the Church of Jesus Christ by not permitting her to be infected with the false maxims of the world. St. Peter then chose the new pope. The Church was again organized, religious orders were reestablished. Private families of ordinary Christians, through their great fervor and zeal for the glory of God, became like the most exemplary religious communities. Such is the glorious triumph reserved for the Catholic Church. She shall be praised, honored, and esteemed by all men. All men shall become Catholics and shall acknowledge the Pope as vicar of Jesus. Amen. And when you see that, do you notice something? Not only does that prophecy align with several prophecies of other mystics, not just when I interjected there briefly, but you also notice that while the true Church of Christ was not subject to the maxims of the world, it was necessary to appoint a new pope and a new hierarchy. I wonder what that means. Perhaps we are being told that, again, because there were warnings to religious orders and clergy, that they who are subject to the maxims of the world will also be subject to this punishment from heaven. But also, perhaps the implication is that those who imbibe of the maxims of the world no longer have the faith and are no longer Catholic, and thus no longer occupy, well, any office in the church. Sobering thought. I'm curious what you have to say about that, so let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It certainly helps. So does sharing this on social media. That helps too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.